into account all the circumstances. Instead of uniformity, it encourages local differences. Instead of aspiring to avoid disagreement with clear rules set out in advance, it encourages argument over what's right. Instead of legal entitlements, it aspires to balance different interests. Instead of requiring objective proof, it allows people to make judgments based on their perceptions and values. Instead of judging people by legalistic compliance, it judges them by the results they achieve and their good faith. America's current governing philosophy, created after the 1960s, dictates governing choices out of a huge legal machine, programmed with about 150 million words for federal law. Its one virtue, at least to people in Washington, is that it absolves them from having to take responsibility for how things actually work. What keeps it in place, despite its failure, is distrust. America's two political parties are mighty engines of distrust. They draw ideological lines in the sand and thrive on polarization. Their solutions are either negative, stop the regulator, or self-interested, give me my rights. What they share is a governing philosophy grounded in distrust of people taking responsibility. The worse things work, the more reluctant we are to let anyone make decisions. Just imagine the abuses if teachers, inspectors, managers, and citizens were able to work out disagreements and be accountable for how they did. The decline of responsibility in Washington over the past 50 years has been accompanied by a rise in apathy and selfishness in the broader culture. Working for the common good seems naive. Why bother to get involved? You can't make a difference anyway. A culture not tethered to responsible individuals is soon dominated by self-interested demands. The common good? Just kick that can down the road. There's a lot to talk about here, but the first hurdle is to convince you that proposing a practical governing philosophy is itself a practical exercise. Washington, we all know, is not exactly responsive to voter needs. It can barely pass a budget, much less overhaul its governing structure. Its defective approach to governing is compounded by a vacuum of leadership. It is unlikely to fix this problem. Change will only come from the outside. Historic shifts in our governing structure always require overwhelming public pressure, as, for example, in the Great Depression or the Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s. Public demand for a new governing philosophy can impact the culture long before the structures collapse of their own weight. Values have their own power. Having a principled basis for practical decisions may inspire people to make them. It will provide a vocabulary for dealing with daily idiocies in schools, hospitals, and government. Today, people are awash in endless rules and legalisms, without any principled basis for getting to a reasonable solution. Find any good public program, or indeed any successful enterprise, and you will see people who make choices based on what they think is right and sensible, not rote compliance. Embracing a public philosophy of practical responsibility will bring these outlaws out of the shadows and up on a pedestal of legitimacy and honor. It will encourage others to follow their lead. Americans can act like Americans again. A new philosophy will also inspire a new generation of political leaders with a clear vision for change. Today, no leader has any credible way of explaining public failures, much less fixing them. Am I just tilting at windmills? I've written about the failures of modern government in my prior books, and, in The Rule of Nobody, described how a rigid conception of the rule of law removes the human authority needed to make common choices. The unintended effect is gridlock throughout society. I wrote that a voter backlash against the overbearing and mindless bureaucracy was inevitable. Now that the backlash has started, America needs a new vision of how to